Play our favorite music. Oh, there we go. Can you guys hear it? Yay! Mandatory head bob. Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Mikey, how are you?
Dude, I'm alive and I'm here. So what else can I ask for?
It's a start, right?
That's good, yeah.
Lara, good to have you back.
It's good to be back. Yes.
You were somewhere really cool last week. I mean, as not as cool as being here, but you were somewhere really cool last week.
Right. Yeah, clearly not as cool as being here with you guys. I was at SeaWorld last Thursday.
Yay!
Yep. I'd never been before, so I thought it was like a glorified aquarium, but no. They have roller coasters. My niece turned 8, so it was kind of a birthday trip for her, and my other niece is 5, so it was a lot of fun. My 5-year-old niece is a thrill seeker. Come to find out, she rode her first roller coaster. And afterwards, she was like, let's do it again. That wasn't fast enough. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Are you kidding me? Like, that was terrifying. So, yeah, it was really fun to experience a roller coaster, her first experience doing that, kind of through her eyes and her excitement. Yeah, it was a good time.
Oh, so did you do any of the crazy, like, did you pet stingrays or touch dolphins or anything like that? I know they have all kinds of crazy stuff.
No, they did the dolphin encounter where they got to touch the dolphins and but no, I kind of came a little later, but we did see an orca show. So that was incredible.
Oh, okay.
And then sea lions, which sea lions are just adorable and entertaining, and so it was a good time for sure.
They scare me. They're too
sea
big.
Lions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like if I saw one in the wild, they would look at the size of me and think I was a threat to them and come after me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we have 2 guests with us. We're a little bit larger crew than we normally are, and I am so excited because I have never met people that are more of like a setup to a joke ever in my life. We have David and Jono Harris, who are twin youth directors that also lead worship, which makes me want to say, like, walk into a bar after that. It's like 2 twins that run a youth ministry and walk into a bar. But we've known each other for a long time, guys.
We have.
We have kind of a unique origin story, don't we?
Yeah, we really do.
What do you guys want to start that off and say, like, what it was? Because I've never heard of anything like this. What the event was.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, 2015, we co-led a camp for elementary, so 3rd grade to 5th grade. We led the worship, and Matt was the speaker. And so, yeah, I can't believe time has passed. But yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, but 3rd grade is like a young camp age, right? For and this was 3 presbyteries. Was that the idea?
I think that was
It was like 3 different presbyteries worth of children's ministry coming together to do this camp. But what I remember the most is they asked me to do 10 talks. 10 talks over a course of a week. So it was like morning, like that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And but that's where we started that's where I developed my gospel according to the Marvel universe talks. And every day was like another one of the Avengers and stuff like that. But we were kind of like forged by fire in that one. We became fast friends in that experience, and then we just kept coming back into each other's lives, which is really cool. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about how you guys started in leading worship, and then and now you guys are full-time youth ministry director. So that's kind of a wild trajectory. Why don't you guys tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that? Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that one of the big components of us starting to lead worship was in middle school. I started learning how to play guitar. David had been taking piano for several years, and we both loved to do things together, but we didn't want to invade in each other's spaces. So it was like, oh, piano is David's thing. I've got to learn something else, and so. At the same time, Dave and I moved to the Hampstead Reisterstown area and started attending Covenant of Grace Church, and we got plugged into the youth group, and we were homeschooled, and Sunday night youth group, Monday night youth group was a place that we thrived. We found friends and community, and it was just so much joy to be there. And so around, I don't know, 9th or 10th grade, we started to play together more, connect with our friends at the youth group who played, and our church actually had a church talent show every spring. And we said, why don't we cover a Switchfoot song? And so it's really funny. Our good friend Andrew and Dave and I are sitting around my family's piano. And David and Andrew played piano, and so, or let's do this Switchfoot song. And I walk upstairs for a glass of water, and they're like, "Hey, none of us sing. We need to vote. We need to vote someone to sing this Switchfoot song." And so they voted while I was upstairs getting this glass of water to be the lead singer of our band. And so that song we played, "Only Hope." For those who were in the congregation, they're like, "Oh, you did it from A Walk to Remember movie." We're like, "No, it's a Switchfoot song," but it was in both contexts. But
You
from that
didn't
point
do
on,
you didn't do the big one. You didn't do "Dare You to Move."
we didn't.
We did not.
Oh,
Yeah. We
But that-
really enjoyed Only Hope.
But that continued into kind of having the church be aware of the fact that we were doing piano for myself and then guitar for Jono and starting to sing. And so we quickly got involved with the youth group leading the worship side. And so in that time in our high school days, we were really starting to understand how to lead, how to facilitate. And that grew into a time where our church would allow us to lead on a Sunday morning. And
Now,
so that was a really, go for it, Mike.
Yeah,
Matt.
real quick before you go on. So, who was the youth director when you were in middle school? Was it the same when you were in high school? And then what did that conversation look like?
Yeah, so we were so blessed. We had Jordan Ross, who was our youth director, but he was there when we were in 6th grade all the way up until we graduated. And we left the church around the same time, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But Jordan was really great in equipping us and giving us that opportunity to lead. What was neat was the youth group had kind of a baton that kept getting passed from worship leader to worship leader. And so that really created kind of a pipeline for us to eventually take that baton. But Jordan would equip and, discuss, and we would create at the time little worship books that we would lead out of, and he was a part of that.
Yeah, Jordan did a great job at kind of mentoring, I feel like, us over middle school. And since he was the director of both high school and middle school, it was an easy transition as we went from each stage. And so, yeah, I feel really blessed to be in that context when we were growing up and having such a stable youth group to be a part of.
Oh, that's awesome. And Jordan's a great guy, and we were classmates at Covenant College, so and we were able to do some stuff together. So that's incredible. Great shout out to Jordan.
But after that point, we really got the opportunity to continue worship. So we stayed around in Maryland when we went off to college at the local community college. And during that time, we stayed on with Jordan and continued leading worship and leading Sunday mornings. At that point, we were leading a little bit more often for our main service. And after our community college days, we were like, okay, what's next? Where are we going? And we started to pray, and God really put it on our hearts, both of our hearts, that ministry is what He wanted us to do. And so we started to look for opportunities within that space to continue in the student world, but also the worship world. And that led to an opportunity at Deep Run Church in Maryland, in the Westminster area, to lead a worship for Deep Run Church as the interim position, as they were searching for, or should I say, moving one of their families who was leading their worship at the time up to Westminster. And so we got to serve in an interim position at a Deep Run Church, which furthered.
Was Deep Run a church plant at the time? Was it brand new? Or
Yeah.
am I remembering that wrong?
Yeah, I think it started maybe 3 years before we got there.
Yeah, and is that Brian LaPiccolo?
And it was Brian LaPiccolo.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so with the 4 months time at Deep Run, it was a really beautiful time. We at Covenant of Grace, we were serving with the youth ministry and the church, and the pastor came in and talked to us and said, hey, I found this opportunity that I think that you guys should reach out to Brian and see if it would be a good fit. And so they had been looking for a while for someone to come into their church, either again in an interim or intern like position. And then they get these calls from these twins 30 minutes down the road. So it ended up being such a perfect fit for us and them. And it really was a beautiful time. Brian LaPiccolo had such great experience in the music world, as well as preaching. So he was able to give us great insight. And I feel like some great mentorship over those 4 months of what it looks like to lead a worship service and think about the planning and organization of music for a service. And so
Wow.
in the meantime, that 2017, we were building more connections, and we got connected to Annapolis EP Church. Our cousin attended Annapolis EP, and he was looking to start a band for a college ministry. And so we got connected with the college age group. And since we weren't in school at the time, he said, why don't you drive down? Like, you got nothing better to do. And so we said, I think you're right. So every Wednesday night we would drive down to Annapolis, drive the hour and go to this college ministry and lead the music with him. And so we kind of got on Annapolis EP's radar, and the story goes, Brian and the pastor at Annapolis EP were talking that summer at General Assembly and said, I know these twins. They're like, yeah. So it was really neat to see how that started to build connection, and we started to network. And that summer, EP said, hey, why don't you come do an internship with us after your time at Deep Run? And so about a week in between, we ended up finishing our time at Deep Run and moving to Annapolis.
And what internship was that? What was the nature of that? Was that a worship internship, or was that a youth ministry internship?
So it was more focused on worship, but we were assisting with the student ministry. And so at the time, their context was the main service happening the same time the Sunday school hour occurred. And so one of the needs of EP at the time was for the student side to start to build a team, to start to have worship on their Sunday mornings. That way, for the students who are only involved with the Sunday school, that they would also have a worship component. So at the time, we came in to assist the main worship director, but we came in also to help build and craft a worship team in the student world. And so that was kind of our focus for the first year. And that was such a joy. We loved being able to more or less take what we've learned and also walk alongside students for those who are interested in that portion.
And okay, so I want to pause here because I think this is, to me, as someone that's not musically inclined, this is one of the more challenging things to develop in a youth ministry is student-led worship. So what are some of the things that you could encourage us with? Like, what are some of the steps that you need to take? How do you go about building? Let's say you're doing it from scratch. What would you do? How would you start that from scratch?
Yeah, dude, I'll tackle this one. I think the big key for us is finding someone at the very beginning to be your point person. And so, let's say in this context, so Annapolis was looking to kind of kick off their kind of worship program, and so what happened was they wanted us to be mentored by the worship director. And so one of us would lead with the main team on Sunday morning in the service, and the other one would lead the student ministry, and then we'd flip each week. But that kind of system allowed us to be a point person, and so we found that a lot of the students at Annapolis CP were quite busy and maybe overwhelmed with the idea of orchestrating their peers to lead worship, and so. One of us being the point person, we would coordinate with the youth ministry and say, all right, we did like a cold call, like, hey, anyone interested in worship music, let us know. We're trying to build a team. And so there was a couple students who right away said, I sing, I would like to play, or I play piano, I would like to play. And so we got those lists of students who were willing to be a part of the team, and then we quickly had a roster that we could then schedule music every week for, and Dave and I would reach out by text or by planning center and get people's confirmation of, hey, I can do this or I can't do it this week. And so I think a really big component for us, and we still preach to this day, is having someone, either a volunteer or a staff member or something, take that lead and say, I'll take care of the admin side of worship, and I'll collect that, hey, what songs do you want to do? Or that input from the team. Like, if you have a lot of pianists, like, okay, I'll schedule the pianist this week and the other one the following week, and do that with your singers. And so
does
just
that person
taking care of that admin side.
Does that person need to be a musician, do you think?
I would argue that they don't need to be a musician. It, of course, is a benefit if they have a skill, but I think the administration side is the biggest reason to have a point person. And I find that when you have a student in that role, now, your context, there might be a great student who could take all of that administration work. But I find if you want consistent worship and for it to be a guaranteed thing to happen at your gathering, if that's a Sunday morning or a youth group, having that admin side taken care of is one of the biggest barriers for success.
Mikey and Lara, do you guys have student-led worship at your content? I don't right now, and it's one of my lists to develop and grow. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we at the moment we currently don't. It's been cool because one of our worship leaders on the team, she leads worship on Wednesday nights, and then we have a volunteer who plays the piano who actually went through the high school ministry and is now serving. She's a college student, and so but we're slowly beginning to develop that. For a second, I was in charge of leading the worship, so that was a disaster, and I tried to make it student-led. And it was like, oh, you play the violin? Come on stage. And it was like, oh, my goodness, what did I just do? Well, the Bible says make a joyful noise to the Lord, and so they definitely did. So I'm so thankful that someone who actually knows music and is musically gifted is leading that, but we're in the development stage, so this is really helpful hearing from you guys just how do we even do this well in developing a student-led worship. So yeah, this is really helpful.
I would say on top of maybe the admin side, again, if you don't have someone musically inclined doing that role, another role would be to have someone to be the backbone of the worship team. So whether that's a pianist or guitarist, I think that if you have somebody who is going to guaranteed be there to lead something, and then all the other pieces can kind of fit together, I think that's really
Yeah.
helpful. At the moment, like that's David and I, like one of us is typically playing with our students at our youth gathering on Wednesday nights, and we're helping facilitate the practice and kind of bringing all the pieces and components together. But it's been such a neat thing, especially over the last couple years, we've seen times where the students are ready and capable just to take the lead, and it's been such an amazing moment to step back and just say, "I'll run the slides tonight." Like you guys lead, and it brings me such great joy. It's like a proud dad moment
Yeah.
when we see our students just leading it with confidence and making a joyful noise. And yeah, that's become so much of a joy, being able to even just step back and take a back seat from leading the worship.
Yeah.
Mikey,
What do you?
I'm sorry, Mikey. What is it like at Seven Rivers?
We have it right now. It hasn't always been a thing that we have had. It's taken years of growing in the hearts of first a middle school group, and then now they're high schoolers and juniors, seniors leading. But so it's been the long game, played the long game,
Yeah.
and so. But that's been really great because now that when I first got here, there's absolutely no being in this kind of area, Citrus County. I think one of the things that is missing the most in our community is a heart for worship, arts. It's very much like that's not appreciated in our area. I think like when you're in cities, that's one of the markers you always see, like these beautiful buildings, these beautiful, and people, and so just no one really valued that. But it's been fun birthing that, in our ministry, because God cares obviously about beauty, and seeing kids kind of catch a vision of that. Really, it started with one of the hires that we made. Our assistant worship pastor was like passionate about raising up kids to play instruments and music. So he started with the school, getting them to do it in chapel, and then it bled over into essentially youth ministry, where we were patching together. I mean, we did the greatest fail of this, and I'll never do this again. Was we were like, we'll just throw up a video and have us worship with just like a
Oh,
video on the projector
oh.
screen. And I kid you not, it felt sickening. I was like, this is not, like, this is the worst. It would be better for me to be up there with a triangle or a recorder leading them in worship than whatever this video of like someone playing guitar and singing, and just was like, this is just, everyone hates this. This is so awkward. I don't know if, who are we worshiping? The person on the screen, like whatever's happening here.
Oh.
It was terrible. So I'm so glad that now we have a group of kids that do it, and really once it started rolling, like kids just want to do it now because they've seen it. I think once you start seeing it, kids are like, oh, maybe I'll learn guitar and then play at youth group. One of the challenges we have is trying to get kids to practice and be like a different, like they try to
Yeah,
come like
rehearsal.
an hour early, but they're late, and then it's, it is sometimes just a train wreck as well. Just having kids getting on the stage and playing the instrument and playing the music. It's like a complete disaster essentially. So, but it's fine. Like you guys said, joyful noise. So joyful noise. I don't think the
Yeah.
Lord is going. I do, but I will say I do think there are people, in the crowd, like what, like kids are like, what is happening right now? Like, yeah, they didn't practice, they're just winging it, it's just, so I'm like curious, like, how do you create a culture of practicing and getting kids, working together as a team? Also, just the drama that comes with like a team of musicians. Musicians are special people anyways, and they have, like, some things I've always noticed is like they're so particular, like each kid about the way they want a song to sound, or things like that, and then you get in these arguments, and like kids are like, so interesting. I don't know, what does it look like to navigate kids through learning to be part of a team and learning to.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many great things that come from even trying to do this. Opportunities to learn, but we are not succeeding. I wouldn't say necessarily, but it is fun to try.
Lara, you were about to ask a question. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, well, first I want to say, like, the theme that I'm hearing from you guys is mentorship. You've brought that up several times, mentorship, and something that we're seeing in our student ministry is we have a great production team and also just a worship arts team here at the church, and seeing our kids serve in that way with them and the leaders there, and they're being mentored, and kind of the overflow that's happening where it's like that is now in turn being kind of led into student ministry. And so seeing these students run production, I mean, they know more about that than anybody else because they're being mentored by leaders in the church who do that stuff. So I noticed the mentorship piece, and that's so important. And so the raising up of future worship leaders. But yeah, along the lines, I was going to ask too, kind of in line with what Mikey was talking about, of like getting kids to practice, but also like being part of a team. And so how do you disciple students to lead worship from a place of like spiritual maturity, rather than just a musical skill, and kind of casting that vision for them?
I think that's a great question. And I think there's a lot of things that even in the past little bit that we could address, because there's so much to talk about when it comes to how to encourage a team, how to start a team, how to maintain a team once you've started it. But a couple things that I would highlight, of course, from just a baseline, like we are doing this because we love Christ and what he's accomplished and his love for us. So worship's a piece that we get to praise our Father. And then how do we model that? I think for one, of course, in the student world, of course, we're mentoring and we're walking alongside students and pointing them to Christ. So that doesn't change in the worship. So if a student is on your worship team, you're still, grabbing coffee, or you're discussing the word together, and you're pointing to Christ. And hopefully those things are going together. So if they're on the worship team, of course, there's the musical and then there's the technical side that you can mentor. But of course, we're walking along each other as we are pointing each other towards Christ. So hopefully all of that is blending nicely together. But as far as practice and all of those things, so I would say there's two things to consider. As you build a team or maintaining a team, you might have the backbone of the core, and maybe those are the students that are really going to allow you to get from point A to B. You're going to get across the line, the song's going to run, and you're, depending on, regardless of how that goes, you'll get through it. And then you might have the students that you're training who might not be equipped to tackle leading a song on their own, but you fold them in so they can start to gain practice, start engaging with the rest of the team. And then they learn, and they might come to your gathering unprepared, and they're like, oh, I've only listened to the song once prior to coming. And they recognize over a period of time that, like, if I want to do this well, I can't listen to it only once before. But because you have some other students who did practice, at least, again, you get from A to B completely, and then you can start to work through. And then you can talk to that student and say, hey, like, I noticed, like, you said that you only listened to the song once. Like, what would it look like to fold in some more time? So again, you kind of walk alongside, and hopefully you can kind of craft together how to work with that student. Jonathan, anything else to add?
Yeah, I would just say modeling what it looks like to change the perspective of, leading just music versus praising the Lord with music. I hope that David and I and our team who leads the music would just be modeling what it looks like to praise our Father, Jesus, authentically. And I commonly are telling the students, put, your nerves or your distractions on pause, like just lay them down at Jesus' feet. We're here to worship him to the fullest. And I encourage you to just take this moment and this practice and worship with this practice. Let us worship fully and allow the congregation, whoever the congregation might be, whether it's youth group or Sunday mornings, help them come into worshiping the Lord. And I think that so far, Dave and I have just seen our students really engaging with that. I think, if there is a disruptive student, we might have more offline conversations, but at this point, I feel like we've just seen a beautiful connection with the students that we've had in our student ministry program, leading worship and doing it for the right reasons.
Mikey, to your comment about styles and musicians, you might have that electric guitar who loves to shred the whole time, or you might have that drummer who loves using a double kick drum 100% of the time, and those type of things, you might allow them to do it once, and you're like, hey, I love that, but you can come alongside like, hey, for this first song, it's a little bit more energetic, so maybe you can throw in a little bit more of your style, and then as we just play to the song, so we say, hey, what is the style of the song? What does the style need? What are the dynamics? I think dynamics is one of the ways to tackle that, because there are times where you can go a little bit more crazy and you can have that electric guitar solo, but there's going to be times where the song doesn't call for that and the moment doesn't call for that. And so talking about dynamics. And I think that's part of that mentorship piece that, Lara, you brought up. But if you have that core admin person, especially if they have musical ability, then they can kind of help alongside the musicians who are running for that particular practice.
Yeah, and
That's
a
really
very practical standpoint, like when I'm leading our students, I'll be like, okay, before a song, let's walk through the order. We're going to do verse 1, verse 2, chorus. On verse 2, we're going to maybe bring everybody in. Let's start with the piano on verse 1. On verse 3, we drop our dynamics down, get a little quieter. These are the instruments that we're doing maybe a highlight of. So kind of walking through, again, seeing what the song calls for, what your particular setting calls for. I think is a big help, again, with creating what you'd like to see. And then again, if a student maybe is a little stubborn, again, just talking about what we're trying to do, and that is worship the Lord. And so how do we do that in harmony with our team and things of that nature?
And then there's always just cut the mic. Right. That's always, someone's on the soundboard, just cut the mic, drop them out.
The amount of times I've had to do that with singers, I'm like, they're like, are you sure? I'm like, cut the mic now. I once had a kid who was like, so I want to be on the worship team. I play the trumpet. And I'm like, cool. I don't really know how that fits into the style and dynamic you guys are talking about. But yeah, it's neat to see them take hold of that vision for worshiping the Lord.
There's a very famous example of that you can look up on YouTube, and it is John Lennon playing with Chuck Berry, and his at the time wife Yoko Ono keeps disrupting the entire performance by shrieking. And then they just cut her mic, and she's like flipping out, like trying to get someone to fix it, and they won't do it. And Chuck Berry looks mad as all get out. But if you've never seen that, it's worth looking up. But all kidding aside, guys, and this is really for anybody. Like, I have some strong feelings about kind of like when we're going to do worship and what that's going to look like. I was a youth director at a church that went through the worship wars, and there were casualties on both sides. So like for me, like whenever I go to a church, like I always tell the worship guy, like as a fellow staff member, like I'm never going to tell you what songs I like. I'm never going to tell you. I'll say, hey, great job on Sunday, but I'm not going to be like, that's my favorite song. I love that. I don't, because it doesn't matter. My personal opinion, my personal preferences don't matter in worship. That's not a point that I'm making now, but like really, like I don't like doing music worship in Sunday school. And the personal conviction, because I want my students to go to the worship service and do the same songs that we're all doing, and I don't want to turn Sunday school into an alternate service. But I will use it at youth group because it helps us focus on the word. It's a part of the process of building community and so I mean maybe that's a stupid distinction to make. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Like distinctions that you make or boundaries that you put up with worship and how that works in your program?
Yeah, so for us, kind of similar to what you just said, we don't lead worship on Sunday mornings. As we said earlier, we did as we came to Annapolis EP. That's how it was modeled, and that's how it was currently working. But a little bit time has passed since then, and so we just have worship being led by the students on Wednesday, and then we get to fold them in on a Sunday morning with the larger team for
Right.
church. And so I do think from a youth group or a gathering perspective, outside of Sundays, it can be really helpful for providing a space for students to engage, especially those who are interested in leading in worship. And what's so cool is then you get to bring them in on the Sunday and kind of expose them to a kind of larger degree. And so that's really neat. But yeah, I would kind of agree with what you said, Matt, in that you do want to consider when and where you would have worship. And I think that having that in youth group is a really valuable place, but not creating an alternate service if it's on a Sunday.
I think it's really
Guys,
easy. Oh, sorry, Mikey.
Oh, I was going to ask, do you guys, when you guys shape worship on a youth group night, do you guys do it with the church service in mind of like, okay, we know what because you guys lead worship at church too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, are you thinking, okay, we're going to do this song, or we're not going to do this song based on how we're also shaping Sunday, coming as well? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's maybe not a full, like okay, I'm every week only doing songs that I think are going to match up well or connect well with one another, but I absolutely am conscious about what our church is playing, what our database is, and so I think that there's a balance of connection. I think as David was saying and agreeing with Matt, like we're trying to think of how are we a multi-generational church. That's one of our, I think, really big aspects of EP. We desire to see the church come together and particularly not create like a silo ministry. And so I really enjoy, like, musically, we might do songs that are a little bit more hype or something at a Wednesday night, but we're also balancing that with very traditional hymns. And so we kind of do a mixture. We've been blessed to have a team of students who are playing drums or bass and guitar, and then we also have students we have three, a violin player, a cello player, and a viola player. So all have like a traditional sounding Wednesday night, and we'll have a more of a contemporary sound one Wednesday night, and some nights we do it all together, and we're just putting everybody on the platform. And so there is that. Yeah, there is that connection with what we're doing on Sundays. It doesn't necessarily forces what I do on Wednesday night, but it definitely comes into play of planning as I look at the whole picture.
I feel like that has to help kids when they come to a Sunday service feel like they're also part of the church today. Like not just like, oh, when I'm older, I'll like this music, or you're already building the bridge now.
Yes,
of being like,
yes.
now they are like, oh, I sing this at youth group, so now I'm here on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I'm already connected. Or like maybe on a youth group setting, you guys are able to explain a hymn and its deeper meaning. You know what I mean? Because there's more time maybe for that than on a Sunday morning to explain. So then they're coming to Sunday understanding the back context of this song, or what these words mean in this song. Because there can be songs where you're like playing and you're like, what? Blood? Drink Jesus's blood? Like, am I a vampire? You know what I mean? Like, washing his blood, like, or whatever it is. You're just kind of like, and you can explain that to kids. And then, so it's not as weird on a Sunday morning for them when, sometimes you don't have that time to explain that. So I really like that.
Yeah, which along with that, what other elements of worship do you bring into it as far as like a call to worship? Do you guys include that in youth group? Do you include sometimes like confession of sin, assurance of like any of that stuff? Where does that fit into when you're thinking about the order of worship in youth ministry?
That's a great question. I think for one thing to kind of highlight is that each church has its own context. So if that's database of songs, like every church is going to tackle this question slightly different. And I think that's okay. And I think that different conclusions are going to get drawn. For our particular context and the way that we're currently doing it is that we'll bring in confessions of sin in special times. So next week we'll have a worship night, and we will have a little bit of liturgy. On a normal youth group gathering, we don't. But we can kind of get to explain those things, kind of like Mikey, you're saying, like you have opportunities in your gatherings to do things that you might not have time for on a Sunday morning. But having a shared database is really cool, because I think it does show the person who comes to youth group and then when they come to Sunday that it's like, hey, we're one church. Now there's going to be nuance, and there's going to be some songs that, again, Jonathan mentioned, are going to be maybe a little bit more energetic, and we might do that at youth group and we don't on a Sunday morning, but there is a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too, like, have you guys ever had like people, like kids? I know adults do this because I'm friends with the worship pastor here, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I get sent songs like all the time, and they're hysterically awful, like theologically and like all that stuff." So, do you ever get kids like come to you and be like, "Hey, I want you to play this song," and you read the lyrics, and you're like, "Oh no, we cannot." The song is just over and over again. There's no words. We're just like yelling into the mic. I'm just kidding. or like, have you ever encountered that dynamic before? Not that I have, but have you guys in like a worship context with youth ministry kids? Like they're like, "Hey, I really like this song," and you read it, and you're like, "Oh gosh."
Yes. The short answer is yes. I think I think just being honest, like if you have the opportunity to look over the song and if you've built a relationship with that student, if they bring it up again, or if you desire to just talk to them about it, be like, "Oh yeah, well, these are the reasons we're not going to play it, but I love that I encourage our students to connect with me about what they're enjoying, what they're listening to." Mikey, actually at Victory Jam when you led, just asking questions was a big theme, I feel like, of your talks over the week, and that's what I want our students to feel they have the ability to do, is ask questions, or say suggestions. I want them to feel like this is a community, that their opinion and their thoughts matter in this space. And so so
you'll like take the song and sit with them and be like, "Hey, these are some areas that like we might not agree with, like the theology behind it, or like kind of what it means, like, or what they're saying." Like you'll do that with kids, which I think that's like awesome. Like that's great. Like to be able to have that opportunity.
In some cases I have said, "Oh yeah, well this song in our church might mean this, and it's a little bit maybe more challenging to play in a congregation, but I see the artist's intent," or those things are shared sometimes. I haven't done it very often, but it has been case to case.
So I'm gonna pivot a little bit, and we could probably do a whole month of episodes on how to lead worship with students, and would love to have you guys back and do that. But I have a selfish reason why I wanted to have you guys, other than like our friendship over the years as we've overlapped and intersected at different places. You guys led worship at the PCA NextGen Conference last year at Chapelgate, and we're having it at Chapelgate again, and you're leading worship again. Which we love, and you guys are awesome. It's so great, and I'm so excited to tell everybody, to show you guys, this is, if you haven't come, this is who's doing it, and why, and one of the reasons you should come. Tell us a little bit about like what was it like to do that, to like you guys. So okay, let me back up for a second. So ultimately, you guys transitioned from working on the worship team and helping with the youth group and this, and now you guys are the directors at Annapolis EP, co-directing. That's your primary responsibility. You also have worship responsibility. You also have young adult responsibility. You have all kinds of responsibilities, because nobody loves hiring a guy at a church more than the guy that adds the line, other duties as necessary. You guys are the poster child for other duties as necessary. What was it like to show up and lead worship at it for a conference for youth leaders? What was your first experience like? What do you think? What are you excited about for the next one? Go.
Yeah, I love the opportunity for retreats and to gather with other youth directors. I think there's so many ways we can tackle this question, but when you gather with people who are in a similar space, it really allows you to recognize that you're not alone, that some of the things that you encounter in youth ministry, both the joys and the struggles, that there are other people that are in the same boat that you are in. And so it's so much fun to be able to gather, but then also have that learning piece where we're learning together, we're praising together the God who saved us. So the conference is so much fun. Last year, it was such a joy to do the worship and get the lead. And we're really looking forward to this year's conference, in that gathering, getting to discuss, getting to worship are all just amazing things.
Yeah, I would say anyone watching, I'm going to plug the conference. Come to the conference. It's going to be a
Come hang
wonderful
out with
time
us.
of connection, networking, and praising. It is, just looking back on the previous year. David said it very well, but I'll echo what he said. I personally just love gathering the church, and it's so beautiful when the wider church gathers together. And in this place, next month, we're gathering the people who are doing the work alongside us in different contexts. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to get to know one another better, to share one another's stories, encourage one another. It can feel lonely, especially when, the job, there might be one of you, or Dave and I have each other, which is really unique and really special, but it can be a lonely position, and having one another from around the churches who are gathering here, it's uplifting. It really overflows, my cup with the Spirit. And so getting to, again, share one another's story and help each other as we go through this journey of student ministry is such a beautiful thing. And there's not many times you can do that throughout the year. So I think it's absolutely a joy, and I would encourage anyone to attend it.
I would just add one more thing, in that, like, most student ministry leaders are probably having at least one retreat that they go to a year. And if you're not, that's okay. But imagine that context, but you're with other youth directors and you actually have time to engage with one another. It's so cool. Like, we love students and we love engaging, but it's a special time when you can just have the focus to be with one another.
Well, Mikey, Lara, before I close this out, anything else you want to say or add or ask?
Well, what's y'all's band's name? Let's get you the Spotify plug. People need to hear. You guys do have one, and I do follow you, but I don't remember the name. What is it again?
Yeah. So this is kind of like our we consider our outreach, our way of connecting to the community in Annapolis and abroad. But it's until yesterday, and we've written secular contemporary songs, kind of in
And
the
you did a
indie
music
pop.
video. I watched the music video, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yes.
Guys, this is legit. These people like they're not pro musicians here, okay? We're not like these, we're not giving you guys, we're
This is
talking
top
these
shelf
people are
These
stuff.
are these are recording
shelf.
artists. Come on. I'm looking you guys up right now on
Oh my goodness,
Spotify.
Laura.
There we go.
See-
Hey.
Yeah.
Just share the screen. Let's play it now. Let's get.
I'll
this
share
on
a little
Or
bit.
you
of-
guys should do it for us live.
To say what Matt shared about kind of the multi hats, Dave and I were trying to figure out how to do video and audio better, and we referred to our friend Andrew who started the band, but we all still live near one another, and so we're still getting to do band stuff, and we actually picked the name until yesterday in 2011, so it's been a long time and still getting to do things, but we were trying to figure out how to get better at audio and mixing and video work. So we was like, why don't we just start a YouTube, and we know it's not going to be that good, but we can gain skills in the department. And after a couple years of doing that, the pandemic hit, and the church said, you guys have that YouTube channel, right? Like, what if you led the streaming effort as we go through the pandemic? And so Dave and I
That's
all the videos over the
don't
over the
let
year.
anybody at church know you know how to do anything. Don't ever do like, oh yeah, sometimes I like to cook. Oh, okay, great. You're gonna cook for the church picnic for 5,000 people. You got to be real careful with that. Yeah, you know what I like to do at home to relax? I like to sweep. Great, you're the custodian now. Like, you're all the things. Yeah. So now it's twin, worship leader, youth director, recording artists walk into a bar. We have to add that to the punchline. Well, I'm gonna we can definitely put links to all that so you guys can find it. But I just want to say that it is incredible to hear about how Jordan poured into you guys, how Brian LaPiccolo poured into you guys, and other youth directors that you've worked with. But this is exponential, because you guys now are leading ministry. You're loving on students. You're leading your church in worship, and you are now ministering to other youth leaders. I mean, like, this is exponential. Like, their investment is paying off so big in the kingdom, because what they've done for two kids really has affected hundreds of kids and thousands of people worshiping Christ, and other youth leaders, which are then in turn exponentially, serving others. So as someone that's been able to sit on the sidelines and watch this over the last 10 years, it has just been the greatest privilege to see how other people's investment has compounded in the kingdom. And if you don't get discipleship, you just need to look at David and Jono. Like, these guys are why you need to invest in students no matter what you're doing. And it is such a blessing to be friends with you guys, and for our lives to intersect at the different times and places that it has, and to be proud with zero contribution to this. Just to look, not like I contributed to this, but just so proud to watch it happen. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. You guys definitely sign up for the PCA NextGen Conference, and we will see everybody next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.